Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Today is January 2nd, 2026. Tatsuya Imai signs with the Astros and more. Let's talk about it. Hello, everybody. My name is Steven. This is the middle of the order. How are we doing today, ladies and gentlemen? That's right. 2026. We are here. It is a new year. The 2025 season has been behind us for a while, but with the calendar flipping on over, it's feeling a lot more real, a lot more different. There are still plenty, and I mean plenty of players still out there. We'll talk about that a little bit more later on, but for now we have our first episode of 2026, and it is highlighted by a certain Japanese star coming over. That is right, Tatsuya Imai. We know he's been posted. He is now a member of the Houston Astros, and this contract is very interesting. He is signing with the Astros 3 years, $54 million. Now, if everything stays put and everything goes the correct ways and bonuses, etc., the Astros are on the hook just under $64 million. It maxes out at 63, I think, 63 point something. But the contract for Mai is $54 million. However, there is opt-outs after every season. That is what we've been seeing. That's what we've been reading here. In responding to the Astros move here. So the Astros on the hook for just under $64 million. There is opt-outs next season and the season after that. So yeah, that is what the Astros are paying for the services of Tatsuya Imai. If you have not seen Imai work, he's got a lot of junk, man. I'm telling you, he is a very solid pitcher here, a very great pitcher for the Astros here. Kind of, I guess, when you think about it, the Framber Valdez replacement. I mean, you're going from a left-handed guy who you've been in your organization this entire time to a right-handed pitcher coming over from Japan. If you remember, the only real footage that I've seen of him personally was during the World Baseball Classic 4 years ago. But he's been around. You know, he's going to be 28 years old this year. You know, so he's definitely been around in the Japanese league. He's played 9 seasons in the league in Japan, the NPB to be exact. 8 seasons in the NBP. 58 and 45 record, a 3.15 ERA across 159 games with 907 strikeouts. So he isn't the most strikeout stuff, although last year was a very good year for him. He was 10 and 5 with a 1.92 ERA. His ERA has been getting kind of lower and lower each year since 2023. Really, he had a 2.45 in 2023, followed by a 2.34 in 2024, and then that dropped down to a 1.92 last year. I think I said 2.09. It was a 1.92 ERA, a sub-2 ERA for a guy. He's getting the third largest AAV contract for a Japanese pitcher. The two that are higher than him, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, the World Series MVP, of course, and then as well as Masahiro Tanaka, of course, with the Yankees a while ago. I missed Tanaka low key. I forgot about that name completely. But yeah, the Astros pick up, I guess, the ace of the staff. I mean, I don't know how it shapes Houston's rotation going forward. He's definitely gonna be a top arm. I'm curious to see how those opt-outs may or may not come into play. Obviously, you know, when you look at his stats and, you know, you look at the Baseball Reference, you see these eye-popping numbers and you think, wow, this guy really is something. But again, as we talked about in the last episode with Murakami, and just like any Japanese player, Korean player, when they come over, into Major League Baseball, it can be a very tricky transition for some players. Some players come, they adjust like that, they're ready to go, bang, bang, solid. Sometimes players come over after putting up these incredible numbers in the Japanese league, and it just can't pan out in the majors. So maybe not the ace of the staff for the Astros. They do have Hunter Brown there. I'd put him above Lance McCullers. Not sure if Christian Javier is still in the mix there, but he could be up to play for like a second, third, kind of guy there. But he's definitely a top 3 pitcher now in the organization going forward. I think the Astros are very happy that they've been able to, retain some talent here. Of course, some of the quotes that he had when he first got posted was saying that, like, oh, what's more fun than join the Dodgers is beating them. It's quite funny that he ends up on the Astros, a team that has quite the history with the Dodgers in recent years here. So I find that to be pretty funny. But yeah, Imai is a member of the Houston Astros. They now have his services. And yeah, I just kind of wonder how well he's going to adjust. That's always the question. And, I like his character. I'll tell you that much from what we've seen across interviews in the last couple of days and all these stuff throughout his interviews during his free agency process. I think he's a likable guy. I think the Astros fans are going to be very happy with the signing. I still think there's some work to be done for Houston to kind of feel like that still dominant force. I still think going into 2026 as it stands right now, I would still put Seattle as the favorites to win the division again. But again, we'd have to see what Houston can do. It's their second year without Kyle Tucker. They brought back Correa last year. What kind of difference will this make the Houston Astros? So yeah, we'll still wait and see what the Astros will cook up. I don't feel like they're done yet. They shouldn't be done yet if they want to stay competitive, but we will soon find out and see what else the Astros have cooking. Moving on here, Tyler Mahle is signing with the San Francisco Giants. We're not sure about the value yet. We do know it's a 1-year deal. Tyler Mahle is coming off a surprisingly phenomenal year with Texas. I say surprisingly. He made 16 starts. He had a 2.18 ERA. He was very good. The only problem was he wasn't able to stay super healthy. Dealt with some injuries that year, which is what limited him from, making as many starts as he did. But when he was healthy in those 16 starts, he was surprisingly one of the top pitchers in baseball last year. He had a 2.2 WAR across 16 starts. The problem with Tyler Mahle, I guess you would say, is that he hasn't really been able to stay all that healthy. In 2024, he was with Texas. He only made 3 starts. In 2023, that was his first full season with Minnesota. He ended up only making 5 starts that year. 2022 was the last we had seen of Tyler Mahle for like a big chunk of time. He played 23 games that year, 23 starts, 19 of which was with Cincinnati before they traded him to Minnesota, where he made 4 starts there. His numbers across his career aren't anything eye-popping. He came up in the league in 2017 with those Reds. In 4 games, pitched to a 2.7 ERA. Since then, his ERA has been around the 4.5 to 4.9 range. He has a 5.14 ERA. In 2019, it was 3-12, one of the worst years of his career. His best year was in 2021. He went 13-6, posted a 3.75 ERA, made all 33 starts, and had a 4.9 WAR. That's his highest WAR ever recorded in a single season. The second highest was last year with Texas. That's how good he was last year, even though he played in half of the starts that he made. A normal starter gets 31 starts. If he's a starter that's healthy and makes every start of the season, gets you 31, 32 starts, right? He got 16, which is just under just half of that, a 2.18 ERA. Like it was a very great season for him when healthy. Problem was he wasn't able to stay healthy. He hasn't really been able to stay healthy since I said 2024 or sorry 2025, excuse me. You go the last 3 seasons, he's made 24 starts. He made 23 in 2022. So like he has one more start combined the last 3 years than he did one full season in 2022. So obviously the issues are there for him health wise. He is only 31. He's going to be 31. Excuse me, is what I should have said. Into 2026. I think it's a really good gamble. He's like I said, coming off a fantastic season. What can you get? Can he stay healthy? He can be a real demon for the Giants if he's able to stay healthy. Only gave up 5 home runs last year. So yeah, hopefully it works out for Mahle. Hopefully it works out for the Giants, and he has a good 2026. I think it could be a really strong move. Excuse me. Moving on now. Let's talk about Kirby Yates because he is signing a 1-year, $5 million deal with the Los Angeles Angels. Man, Kirby Yates, what a guy. What a name that I forgot about for a couple years here. If you remember, his 2019 campaign was something special. He had a 1.19 ERA in 60 games with 41 saves. He was absolutely brilliant. Then came the injuries, then came the not playing great. Did not play in 2021. He got back to baseball in 2022 with the Braves. Played in 9 games with a 5.14 ERA. The following year, he's healthy. He's back. 61 games, a 3.28 ERA. Not the same Kirby Yates, but not a bad one either. Then signs a 1-year deal with Texas, where he found his form again. I forgot how good Kirby Yates was in 2024. He was 7-2 record-wise. He had a 1.17 ERA across 61 games. He had a lower ERA than he did in 2019. He had 33 saves for the club. And yeah, he was an all-star for the second time of his career. Finished 8th in Cy Young voting. Almost basically an identical year to 2019. Just because he played one extra game and had a couple more innings, his ERA dropped by 2 points from 1.19 to 1.17. He played so well that he gets a deal with the champion Los Angeles Dodgers. That's right. He was with the Dodgers last year, and it didn't go great. He kind of reverted back to like when he was back from injury. Across 50 games with the Dodgers, ended up with a 5.23 ERA. 41 innings, gave up 24 earned runs, a really tough year for him. He was not on the Dodgers playoff bullpen at all, I don't think. I don't remember him in the wild card round or in the divisional round. I know he wasn't on the championship team or the World Series team. He did not. But he was on the team in 2025. He's up there in age, 39 years old. It's going to be... And the Angels just keep taking gambles on these players. I for an Angels team that's always bottom tier, they feel like they're bottom tier, year in and year out. I kind of like it for them. You're taking a bunch of gambles. And, for the Angels, the best case scenario, some of these guys pan out. You guys have a fantastic season. Like, that is the best case scenario. Even if it's like a middle case scenario, 1 or 2 of the players work out. You can trade them at the deadline. You get some prospects back. You make your team a little bit better overall. That is what the Angels are really trying to do here. They trade for Vaughn Grisham. They've brought in Jordan Romano, Alek Manoah, two guys that have had so much success with the Blue Jays in the past. You bring in Kirby Yates now, 39 years old, looking for that bounce back. You bring in Drew Pomeranz, so the bullpen is just getting, added. You trade for Grayson Rodriguez, so now you have Rodriguez, Manoah, Pomeranz, Yates, Romano, Grisham. You got 6, almost wild cards, and, the upside of these 6 can get you, 10 extra wins, 15 extra wins maybe. If Manoah finds his 2022 Cy Young form, if Grayson Rodriguez can find that top prospect form, those 2 starters alone can net you 7, 8 more wins than you had last year. Then you add 3 guys to the bullpen. If 2 of them can find their best form or even close to their just as good as they were, that's 4 or 5 more leads that you guys get to hold on to. So yeah, this is a difference of, 5 to 10 extra wins. Again, it's a wild card though. These guys have also been bottom of the barrels, struggling in recent years. Manoah, take his last couple of, take his 2023 season. I mean, you get that Manoah, you're losing an extra 10 games. It really is a Hail Mary prayer here from the Angels. Obviously you need Mike Trout to be healthy. You want Zach Neto to be great. Can Joe Adell continue his success that he found last year? Logan O'Hoppe, same thing. The Angels, excuse me, they're always an interesting bunch entering the year, and based off of history, you assume that it's not going to go well. They're in a tough division with the Astros, the Mariners, the A's. If they just get some pitching, how good could the A's be? I mean, you're running into a situation where the Angels, the ceiling is 4th place, maybe 3rd? But they have these great players. They have these fun names. They just can't figure it out. Maybe this is how it works. Maybe they just got to get lucky, and then from there they can figure it out. Who knows? But yeah, Kirby Yates is joining the Angels wildcard team, and we'll see if they actually end up being able to compete for a wildcard team for 2026 here. Moving on here, Zach Eflin. He is coming back to Baltimore. It's a 1-year deal, $10 million. Zach Eflin, I guess, was one of the more, I say consistent, but he only played 14 starts either. I mean, this Baltimore team last year in 2025 just gone awry for him. Zach Eflin spent the most of his career with Philly, debuting in 2016. Spent 7 years there before heading over to Tampa Bay. He spent a full season in Tampa where he went 16-8, his career high in wins. He had a fantastic year. The following year in 2024, definitely started the year struggling with the Rays. They trade him to Baltimore. He made 9 starts with the O's that year, posted a 2.6 ERA. He's obviously back for 2025, but like the rest of the team, everyone had a down year. 14 starts, a 5.93 ERA. Arguably one of, if not the worst years of his career. And, he's been in the league, 10 years? He's going to be 32 this year. I think he's got a bounce-back season in him, for sure. I think a lot of Baltimore players are due for bounce-back seasons. He's only, 2 years removed off one of his best years of his career in 2023. So I think there's still potential. He finished 6th in Cy Young voting that year. That's how good Zach Eflin was with the Rays in 2023. And again, that's only 3 years ago. So I think there's definitely some upsides here. There's no way that last year is definitely a blip. I feel like so many of Baltimore's players are going to have 2025 be one of the worst years of their career overall. Just so much went wrong for the team, whether it was just guys who were struggling at the plate, dealing with injuries, pitchers that couldn't pitch. Obviously, credit where credit is due. The Baltimore Orioles are in the AL East. The Blue Jays were a World Series team. The Yankees are always in the mix. Boston seems to be getting better. The Rays are always one of those teams that just causes problems for these other teams. Like the AL East is a top division in baseball for a reason. And if you're a pitcher in that division, you got to be careful because you know who you face on a day-to-day basis? Aaron Judge, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., I was going to say Gunnar Henderson, but obviously he is with Baltimore. But there are plenty of players in that division that can cause pitchers problems. Obviously, Zach Eflin definitely struggling last year, dealing with injuries as well, as did a lot of this Baltimore team. But for $10 million, you're welcome back. Obviously, how bad? There's no way your 2026 is worse than your 2025. That's the moral of the story there for me. So Zach Eflin, welcome back to Baltimore, and hopefully your season goes a lot better than it did in 2025. Speaking of players that, I don't really have a good segue. Anthony Rendon. We talked about him earlier in the offseason here. There was news and reports that the Angels were working with Rendon to try to buy out his contract. It has been confirmed that the Anthony Rendon and Angels contract has been bought out. The final year of $38 million will be deferred out across the next 3 to 5 years, and his time with the Angels has officially come to an end. 7 years with the Nationals, 34.2 WAR. 5 years with the Angels, 4 WAR. His best season was in COVID. I mean, he didn't play in 2025. He's not going to play in 2026. I don't think he'll ever play baseball again. This man went from one of the most underrated, amazing players in baseball, World Series champion, top 3 in MVP voting, 2 Silver Sluggers, an All-Star, all of these accolades, to being a joke and to being one of the players that, it's just, his career went from sneaky Hall of Fame good to off the rails forgettable, and the Angels fans will be scarred from this contract. But on the bright side, it is lifted. You just got to pay out across the next 3 to 5 seasons, and then you're done. You don't have to see this guy. You don't have to worry about him. I feel bad for those who have Rendon jerseys. You're going to see videos about this contract and about Anthony Rendon and all the things that happened across the last 6 years since he signed with the Angels. And, we've seen bad contracts. It's part of sports. There will always be bad contracts. Contracts that don't work out. Contracts that, favor a player. Contracts that favor a team, etc. At the end of the day, I genuinely think that the Angels and Rendon contract is the worst contract I've ever seen. Possibly in baseball history, maybe even in sports history. That is how bad this contract is. I mean, he hit 22 home runs with the Angels across those 5 years that he was playing. He just wasn't playing. Look at the games. I mean, 52 games, but that was COVID, so he missed 8 games. 58 games. Okay, not good. 47, 43, 57. He never played more than 59 games in a season. There's 162 games in a season. What are we doing? I'm speechless. It really is one of those contracts that will go down as one of the worst contracts ever. That's just how I see it. But at least it's over. At least it's over. That is the story. Wow. The more I think about it, the more I am flabbergasted that, how unlucky can you be if you're the Angels fan? You brought this guy over to help Trout, to help Ohtani. That was the big trio. Trout, Ohtani, Rendon. When he first signed that contract, that trio was going to tear up the league. And then Rendon was never great. Trout was unhealthy. Otani was the only one doing anything, and then he couldn't pitch. And then he said, "Goodbye, LA. I'm going to LA." And it just derailed from there. Angels fans, I'm so sorry, but again, at least it's over. Moving on here. Let's talk about players who are no longer playing. And I say that because Joe Kelly, in his comments, he said that it's not retirement. We just stop playing. People who work in all these other factories and companies and all this hard work that gets done, they're the ones who get to retire. We just stop playing. So Joe Kelly has announced that he has officially stopped playing Major League Baseball. Andrew Heaney also announced his retirement. Two players that have had lengthy careers, long careers. We'll start with Andrew Heaney quickly, give him his flowers because he debuted at the age of 23 in 2014. He spent 12 years in the big leagues. He played with Miami. He played with the Angels. He had a trip to New York for the Yankees, a season with the Dodgers, a couple seasons with the Rangers, and then last year with the Pirates and the Dodgers. I say the Dodgers, but he made one game, pitched 2 innings, gave up 3 earned runs. But across his 12-year career, he accumulated 7.8 WAR, 56 and 72 record, 4.57 ERA across 230 games where he made 208 starts, gave up 199 home runs, 577 earned runs, and across 1,136 innings and 2/3, struck out 1,156 batters. He will go down as one of those pitchers that maybe helped your team. Of course, he was with the Rangers in 2023. He is a World Series champion despite having any All-Stars, any Gold Gloves, any Cy Young top votings. None of that. His award page is blank, but he does have that World Series ring to show. His best year probably was with the 2022 Dodgers. He was 4-4 across 16 games, 14 starts, had a 3.10 ERA, his lowest ERA of his career. Overall, a great guy, great pitcher. I say great pitcher, but it's never that great. His 2018 season with the Angels, that one was pretty good as well. He had a 2 WAR that year, his highest WAR he ever finished in a season. He made 30 starts, the most starts he had made in a season. Just an all-around, everyday, average pitcher. But he is a guy who will be missed across the baseball league. So Andrew Heaney, congrats on your retirement, quote unquote, because Joe Kelly says they don't retire, they just stop playing. But speaking of Joe Kelly, let's move on to him. He had a 13-year career, spending 5 years with the Red Sox, 5 years with the Dodgers, 3 years with the Cardinals, and 2 years with the White Sox. An up-and-down pitcher, of course, that 2020 COVID year with the Dodgers, a 1.8. That will go down as one of his most memorable seasons. Of course, him being the pitcher to throw at Correa when the whole scandal was dropping that year. There was no bench clearings allowed, yet somehow they, of course, had one. He was with the Red Sox in 2017 and 18. That means he is a World Series champion. In fact, he was with the Dodgers in 2024. So he is actually a 2-time World Series champion. Across his 13-year career, he's accumulated 5.3 WAR. He's 54 and 38 record-wise, a career 3.98 ERA. 485 games played. He had 81 starts. The beginning of his career, he was being used as a starter at times. Across those 485 games, he's accumulated 839 innings. He's given up 73 home runs for 371 earned runs. And in those 839 innings, 767 strikeouts. A fantastic pitcher. He's a very either likable or hateable guy, whichever way you fared on him. He was a guy that Dodgers fans will always admire. He's a guy that the Cardinals will always cherish as well. The beginning of his career spent with St. Louis, kind of helping them, turn their fate around a little bit after coming off their World Series ring in 2012, I believe, or 2011. I think it was 2011 because the Giants were 10, 12, and 14. That's when the history starts to fade a little bit. Excuse me, but Joe Kelly, a fantastic player. So Heaney and Kelly, congratulations both on your careers and enjoy your after playing days, you should say. Anyways, people, we have come towards the end of the episode, but we're not done just yet because I want to highlight just a couple of things here because we are in 2026. We are in January. Spring training is next month. And by the way, there is still plenty, and yes, I mean plenty of players still available. The stove has been hot at times, but I'm going to tell you, this January could be one of the craziest months of baseball free agency that we've seen in a long time. Kyle Tucker still available. Framber Valdez, Cody Bellinger, Alex Bregman, Ranger Suarez, Bo Bichette, Zach Gallen, Lucas Giolito, Chris Bassett, Eugenio Suarez, Nick Martinez, Luis Arias, JT Realmuto, Marcel Ozuna, Sir Anthony Dominguez, Chris Paddock, Luis Rengifo, Jonah Heim. Like, the list goes on and on. Max Scherzer, Justin Verlander, Paul Goldschmidt, some old veteran guys right there for you. Rhys Hoskins, Miguel Andujar, Jesse Winker, Chris Taylor, Isaiah Kiner-Falefa. Like, there is a massive list here, of course, the highlight being Tucker, Valdez, Bellinger, Bregman, Suarez, Bichette, Giolito, Gallen, Woodruff. Like, there are a lot of top names still on the market, and some of those guys are going to be signing this month. So it is going to be a pretty big month. There's still plenty of free agents. So if you're a fan of a team and you're not happy with the offseason you've had, don't worry, there's still time to change all of that. There's still plenty of players still available, but that is going to officially do it for the episode here, the first episode of 2026. Ladies and gentlemen, we are getting closer and closer to spring training, closer and closer to the World Baseball Classic. Still lots to be done before the 2026 season arrives. Of course, we are in the 2026 year, but the season not quite yet, but soon. I appreciate you all. Thank you, everybody, so much, and I will see you next time.